It's 3 a.m. Water is pouring through your ceiling. Your first call? A restoration company. Their first challenge? Making sure somebody answers that call.
My name is Joe Tolzmann. I'm the founder and CEO of RocketPlan.
And how do you describe what RocketPlan does?
Solving a problem of capturing documentation on the go at the site of the damaged property and automating that process of reporting, estimating, and billing. This goes back to 2003 when I immigrated, right after I got a military in Croatia. When I landed, I couldn't speak a word of English. I had to find a job where I'm going to be exposed to people and practice and just get better at it. So I worked at Dairy Queen for a while. It was very uncomfortable at times, but it was so helpful to learn the language, build up the confidence, and then go into the real world. So I started doing some renovations, some construction repairs, build it up eventually to do new construction. I've done some new real estate developments for my clients. I've done a few of my own. Life was good until 2008.
I think this is the most significant financial crisis in the post-war period.
There are fears the sell-off will continue on Wall Street.
Soaring gas prices, falling home prices, and rising unemployment.
I got the contract that kept us busy for about 2 years, fixing a complex with 200 some apartments. It was the right time, the right place. I was pretty lucky. But after that dried out, it was still not much to do because the economy was pretty soft. But luckily, I had good relationships with property managers. And they keep asking me, can you guys do emergency response, flood, fire restoration, insurance work? When I heard insurance, recession-proof, I'm like, I'm in.
When the 2008 crash forced many to pivot or perish, Joe found his opportunity in restoration work. But as he built his company, he encountered challenges common to the entire sector: documentation nightmares, communication breakdowns, and payment delays. Where others saw roadblocks, Joe saw opportunities for innovation.
RocketPlan is a solution that streamlines property restoration insurance claims, which are traditionally very heavy on documentation and reporting. We built a solution to enable field workers easily capture project documentation on a go, on a mobile device, with virtually no training required, minutes to implement and generate this ROI out of the gate.
RocketPlan isn't just software. It's a lifeline for an industry drowning in paperwork and inefficiency. I'm Rob Boyd. This is Beyond Red. Well, today we are exploring how RocketPlan is bridging the gap between field and office, setting new benchmarks for efficiency and harnessing cutting-edge technology like FLIR Thermal Imaging to revolutionize restoration work. As in a field where time is money and accuracy can make or break a claim, RocketPlan is turning every minute into an opportunity for precision and productivity. Welcome to Episode 3, Data-Driven Restoration, RocketPlan's Approach to Recovery.
I started a restoration company with 2 other employees. We built it to over 100 with multiple locations.
From a 3-person startup to a 100-strong operation, Joe's company grew fast, but with growth came growing pains.
When I started, I was the guy taking those calls 24/7, could be middle of the night, evenings, weekends, responding to the call, working in the field at the job site with my crew, doing demolition, doing cleanup, manually gathering all this documentation, manually doing all the reports, estimates, and billing. And I was able to do that up until about 20 employees. But then as we grew, we're hiring estimators, bookkeepers, people who work in the office that haven't been to the job sites, but the documentation comes from the job sites. So it was a huge disconnect.
It's a classic startup dilemma. How do we improve things while also doing those things?
We went through implementation of 3 different software.
And of course, there's turbulence ahead.
3 to 6 months of painful, lengthy implementation, costly process. Always got to the point, this thing doesn't work. And the reason for that is that all this technology was built before smartphones really became smart. And back then, the only way to get documentation from the job sites into the system was through the desktop or through the laptop, which neither is really practical.
Off-the-shelf solutions proved as outdated as floppy disks. Here was a chance to bridge the gap between muddy boots and sleek software.
I figured I got to hire a software engineer, bring them in-house full-time, and really focus on building something that works for the people in the field, because that's the starting point. That's the ground zero.
And a great place to build all new things.
So we built this prototype that looked like 1980s DOS, black screen, green and red buttons, but it worked like magic. It worked so well. Field workers, they were able to capture all the documentation on the go. Everything fell into one centralized source of truth, from where we're able to automate the reporting, get all the backup we need for estimating and billing, ultimately eliminate massive amount of manual labor, delays in a process, errors. So we even increased our revenue because we were providing these reports to property managers, to insurance adjusters faster than anybody else. And their jobs were more efficient when they get data from us organized. So now we're growing a business. We're significantly more operationally efficient. And then I realized what a great opportunity to solve this problem for the industry.
From in-house fix to industry problem solver, it could be considered a big leap.
We started in 2020. We're gaining massive traction. And to me personally, it was really rewarding to see that we're able to help family-run business, husband and wife with a couple of employees, to major national and international networks.
Rapid success built on a foundation of hands-on experience.
I worked all aspects of the job, from being a business owner, building a company, to being the technician, cutting the drywall, getting demolition done, getting cleanup done, setting up equipment, using FLIR camera, dealing with adjusters. Like, I really went through the 360. So I understood what it's like to work in the business and being an employee and also being a business owner. I was confident that we're solving this problem for the industry, big company or small company, doesn't matter, because the problem was getting documentation from the field into one place, because that was a huge bottleneck for everybody. So that enabled me to approach bigger companies and smaller companies and get into those sales, knowing we're going to solve this problem.
All right, we're jumping back in time to a different pivot point in this otherwise silky smooth timeline.
I was pretty early on when I started a restoration company. I don't think we were even maybe like 10 employees at a time. And I'm chasing new business, and I'm getting some business from property managers, and living downtown. That was my area. There's a lot of high rises, multi-unit buildings. So I worked with this property manager, and she promised to me, next claim, next job that happens, I'll call you.
Ring. It probably wasn't an iPhone 15, but you get it.
So she calls me. It was Friday after 3:00. I'm excited. I got a new job. So I go there. She told me that they were servicing air conditioning units, and the pipe burst and it flooded the place. So she doesn't know how big the job is. I don't really know. So Friday, 4:00, I'm walking into the building. This thing originated on 20th floor, unit 2001. As I'm walking through the lobby, the water is gushing through the ceiling all the way into the lobby. So the elevators are not working. I'm going up 20 flight of stairs. The water is running, and this is 3/4 inch pipe, like there's gallons and gallons per minute pumping out. By the time they found shutoff, it was like 40 minutes later. Nobody knew where the shutoff is. Yeah, the water went down 20 floors into the lobby, into the parkade, and it was a major, major flood.
In 40 minutes, a routine AC service turned into a 20-story waterfall.
We need to document all the damages for us to understand what work we need to do, because each room has different degree of damage. Each room has different materials, different assemblies. An example of that is unit 2001. What was damaged? Like, what was the source of the damage? It was the AC unit. So we need to take photos of that. We need to make it clear this is what created this loss. Then in the apartment, from hallway to living room to dining room to kitchen to bathroom to bedroom, every room we need to scan it using FLIR infrared camera to detect damage, but also to have this evidence to report to insurance companies.
You knew I was going to bring up FLIR at some point.
My belief is that infrared camera FLIR is absolute must. Like, I don't think anybody can run business without it. Some adjusters that I personally work with, they actually ask us to make sure that we include infrared camera scans into every job that we do. It's valuable for them to understand what actually happened on this job in the specific location of the property, what materials are damaged, what work needs to be done in accordance to that.
FLIR Thermal Imaging reveals hidden moisture, converting guesswork into actionable data.
Back in the day, there was no other way, and just having FLIR camera and being able to document the damage in a way that FLIR does it. It was amazing, but it required a lot of manual labor to match these reports, photos, the same area side by side.
Context is king. Side-by-side pictures, standard and infrared.
So we solved that problem, eliminating massive amount of labor by having direct integration with FLIR camera into RocketPlan. Taking a regular photo, it doesn't really show area that is damaged, that it's wet. With FLIR camera, it shows the area, the dark spots are the wet spots. Now, very efficiently, it gets a view of a regular photo with infrared camera photos side by side, organized in the project, in that apartment, in that room.
RocketPlan isn't just digitizing paperwork, it's upgrading the entire workflow.
Using FLIR ensures that work is done properly and accounted for properly. Whoever does estimating, billing, whoever is reporting to insurance companies, they automatically generate these reports and they can do their work efficiently.
Details will make or break you at this point. Things can spiral quickly.
So now we're in a living room. We need to document that floor is damaged. Well, what kind of floor? Laminate, carpet, tile, vinyl. There's so many different variables. Now we go into assessing the walls. If the wall is damaged, what kind of wall is it? Is it interior, exterior, firewall? Different assemblies of the wall will require different scope of work with that different price. If it's an exterior wall, they will be insulated. They will have vapor barrier. So in those circumstances, the work is different than if it's only interior wall. So if it's a firewall, it's 2 layers of 5/8 for fireproofing. There's also soundproof insulation between the 2 units. So it gets very granular. And imagine when you have 54 units affected.
It's more than fixing buildings. It's also about managing what Joe calls the disconnect.
Generally speaking, people that work in the field, they don't really understand the importance of documentation. People that work in the office, estimators, bookkeepers, accountants, rely on getting this documentation from the field. Without it, they can't do their job. Companies are not getting paid. The disconnect is that these are 2 different worlds, 2 different perspectives.
Documentation clarity becomes more than paperwork. It's the universal translator between field and office. 2 different worlds that need to speak the same language.
We use Xactimate rates to quantify and price the work that it's been done. So let's say category 1, clean water, all porous materials should be dried in place. You don't have to cut it and replace it. Now, if it was category 3, contaminated water, porous materials need to be cut out. The area needs to be cleaned, disinfected.
IICRC and Xactimate are established players providing a common language or standard for how things have to be communicated.
And then we're quantifying the loss if 65 square feet of drywall was cut out or it was dried in place. What's the square foot price? And that's how we come up with the total value of the work.
One stray bit of moisture today is tomorrow's pesky mold situation.
If there's no documentation, then work could be done and contractors are not getting paid for it. Or they can just miss and not do the work that should be done. And then it can create a lot of issues in the future, creating mold. Imagine if you go through multiple units and then, living room is going to have different flooring than bedroom, than kitchen. And after you've gone through a few of those units, it's impossible to remember what should be done in which area of the building. Now, if you don't have clear records, it becomes a nightmare. It becomes super inefficient to get it all organized, to even understand what work should be done, let alone reporting it to insurance companies or getting estimators to quantify. Back in the day when I worked in restoration and I was building a company and doing project management, working in a field, I used old FLIR camera. It was handheld and I used it on every job. Now, back then, there was no integration with RocketPlan. RocketPlan didn't exist, so I had to take regular photos, and FLIR has its own. Now, I had 2 SD cards. I had to manually download these photos, match them for the project, for the unit, for the room, and then copy and paste into a Word document.
2 cameras, 2 SD cards, too much hassle.
If it's not captured when it happens, it becomes very inefficient to capture it later on when it's required for estimating and billing.
Well, this is a good pain point. Let's hammer it in with some solid examples.
I work throughout the night, next day, and when I get home or to the office, I should download these photos, put them into the system, and have the report ready. But after you work 10, 12, 14 hours sometimes, you're not really up for it. And then it's always like, I'll do it later or I'll do it tomorrow.
Procrastination can quickly turn into a liability.
Tomorrow you get another job. There's another emergency, maybe even the same night. So you're constantly on the go. And then when time comes to do the reporting or estimating and billing, the data is somewhere, but it's very inefficient to summarize it and carry on to the next step with a project.
When exhaustion meets documentation, things start falling through the cracks.
Insurance claims, they take a long time to settle. It takes a long time to pay because there's lots of moving parts. So for the adjusters, they need that information to understand what happened on this loss, what's the coverage, what will be covered by the policy, and what's the actual dollar value to it.
The stakes are always higher when it comes to people's homes. This requires a much tighter paper trail.
So for them to come up with that conclusion, they need data from the field. So if contractor is unable to provide it, then it can be a lot of disconnect, a lot of disagreement, and time goes by.
And this brings us back to that disconnect. The big one is between the field and the office, which now seems quaint given this growing list of stakeholders.
And there's a lot of things that need to get coordinated. Contractor who does mitigation work, subcontractors, moving company, furniture restoration sometimes, fancy art that needs to be restored, property managers, adjusters, carriers. It gets pretty complex. That's why it's important to keep the documentation organized, tidy, and make it efficient throughout the process for all stakeholders involved.
Okay, with data capture and coordination streamlined, RocketPlan takes it a step further. Enter Rocket Sketch. Imagine transforming a disaster zone into a precise 3D model, all with your smartphone.
You take scans like every 4 to 5 feet in a room. Those green points are the scan points. After the scan is done, you can measure different objects in that scan. It takes about 30 minutes later to convert it into a floor plan. And this is a critical piece for estimator. In addition to have photos and notes and understand which materials are damaged, they need to know what are the sizes of those rooms, what are the quantities, measurements. We nailed it down with Rocket Sketch to quickly do the scan in the field, and in less than 30 minutes to get floor plan with measurements and virtual tour.
Now this qualifies as a bridge, the connecting bits.
This is where it can get super messy if that's not, the naming convention is not right. If you have photos and they're labeled in different rooms than it is on the sketch, then it's just like, how do I put this thing together? But with RocketPlan, it's like super easy to the project unit room, and it fits right through.
From panic to payment, RocketPlan's got you. How about this? Mobile or desktop, we turn chaos into clockwork. One app, endless solutions. That's digital precision in disaster recovery. Okay, workshopping a few things. Continue.
For example, apartment 701 bathroom, you get all the photos, including FLIR infrared camera photos for that particular room, bathroom in this case, organized into damage assessment, pre-existing damages. Then you also have the ability to write notes specific to this room, and then the scope of work is laid out for that particular room. So damage material, what work was done when it comes to carpentry, baseboard, 6 linear feet was teared out. Follows this logic into the next room, bedroom in this case. Same thing, regular photos with infrared camera, photos by FLIR. Everything organized project unit room. For someone who has this in one place and then goes into estimating, that estimating is as efficient as it can be.
Joe built RocketPlan to tackle key issues, streamlining on-site documentation, automating reports, and visualizing damage to boost communications. It's successfully turning these pain points into progress.
Our goal is to have RocketPlan be one-stop shop for the entire business. So from the time when the call comes in until the money's in the bank and everything in between.
What started as just a documentation tool has grown into a comprehensive business solution.
The nature of the business is that it's a 24/7 operation. Back in the day when we were in restoration, biggest challenge was that we were losing business. The calls were not answered. So we were outsourcing answering service to different call centers, and none of them really had enough resources when we had surge to pick up the phone attend to our customers.
The whole reason you're hiring them. Yeah.
Totally. It's no one to blame, really, because it's the nature of the business. The spikes are coming. Like, you can't really predict them. Sometimes it's weather dependent. Sometimes it's not.
If I call and you don't answer, I'm going to move to the next thing on the list because I'm desperate.
Absolutely. And I would call our answering service as like sometimes in the middle of the night just to check what kind of service we're providing to our customers. The worst thing was when it rings 4 or 5 times and then I'm on hold, or somebody picks up the phone and says, "Can I put you on hold?" and puts me on hold, doesn't even wait for me to respond. If I'm a homeowner in the middle of the night and I had proper damage and somebody's putting me on hold, I'm just going to hang up and call someone else.
This is a business that thrives on responding to unplanned events. But that's no excuse for missing calls, and you guessed it, there's probably some AI for that. Meet RocketCall AI.
When somebody calls in, it rings once.
Thank you for calling Emergency Water Restoration, your 24/7 water mitigation and emergency response experts.
And then the conversation goes into the standard where people, when they call for emergency response, usually they say,
"I've had a flood in my place. I need some help right away."
And the conversation carries on into explaining that caller what the process is, asking them for information, what's their name, what's their address, is any special requirements. And that information, when it's taken in by AI, it dispatches the crew and it gets that information delivered into RocketPlan. It's making sure that information is captured and AI is trained to respond to the questions that will satisfy the homeowner, and then ensuring that the work is taken care of. I had people when we were in a testing stage where I would ask them to call and test it without telling them you're testing AI. You're just testing the service. And they didn't clue in. We're not trying to pretend that this is not AI. We're not competing to create a human-like AI. We're just utilizing AI to making sure the job is done, the customers are taken care of.
2 problems being addressed here. Don't miss new opportunities, take care of your customer. And you do that while fulfilling the second golden rule that I just made up right here. Don't screw up the data entry with humans in the middle of the information exchange. So that's cleaning up the very front end of our expanded workflow. But there is more room in the depth of the process, the parts that every client tends to forget, but upon which you as a business owner greatly depend. Cash flow and all that entails.
On the jobs, sometimes you got to collect deductible that it's $1,000, $1,500. It's not a significant amount, but if it's not captured right there and then, it becomes very inefficient to capture that payment later on.
For example,
we built into the workflow, the work authorization is signed. You need to get deposit or you need to run the deductible amount. On RocketPlan, you can do it right there and then money goes automatically to the bank account. We're eliminating massive amount of labor chasing that payment later on, weeks after the job is done.
Small amounts do add up fast, but it's not just dollars. There's also a need to track every minute. In fact, every mile.
Most companies, they're going to work on a couple of jobs. They're going to have their employee work on a couple of jobs per day. So there's some driving time. And then to get P&L for the job, it's critical to have labor hours properly allocated. We build it in a way that geofencing, GPS tracking, it separates time from working on a specific job site, travel time, which is sometimes it's billable, sometimes it's not billable, but it automatically separates it, and then it processes the payroll for all the remittance and deductions according to the area and the tax code.
You're saying I don't have to write down my mileage and my location each time. You're saying this is happening through the app again.
Yeah, for workers in the field, sometimes they forget, right? They forget to clock in, they forget to clock out, and then it becomes pretty messy. And with RocketTime, it's automatically organized and accurate.
It's a lot of rockets. Joe continues to create the missing tools in his quest to accelerate time spent getting back to pre-loss conditions.
RocketPlan was built for a person who's already on the job, who is able to take a selfie. They don't need training.
Joe knows it's more than digitizing broken analog processes. With high turnover and unique customer needs, the solution must be intuitive for anyone to pick up and start running with.
They already know they need to take photos. They already know they need to run air movers, dehumidifiers. So it's super easy for them to get into it and get this ROI out of the gate.
Which is not to say that there are no helpful resources.
Yeah, so we run our workshops. People are always welcome to join us. We also have lots of tutorials where it's like 60-second clip to show you how to take photos and how to generate the report that it's broken down project unit room. So that's the key thing. Now, most people these days, they don't really need to see that video because it's so intuitive. that once you get into it, you can see, okay, I can add living room, I can add bedroom, I'm taking photos, I can organize these photos into damage assessment and pre-existing damages versus daily work progress. And then I have this button where I can click generate report, and then I get the report. We build RocketPlan to follow the workflow, so it's almost impossible to miss something because it was built for these site conditions in the order that it happens, and it's not a rigid flow where you have to do it. You can always get back to it if for whatever reason data is not available.
From frustration to innovation, we've witnessed how RocketPlan seeks to optimize every step of the recovery process. Joe Tolzmann's journey from restoration rookie to industry innovator proves that sometimes the best solutions come from those who've lived the problem. All right, a big thanks to FLIR for their sponsorship. Their thermal imaging tech, now fully integrated with RocketPlan, is a game changer in damage assessment. It's turning guesswork into hard data, crucial in an industry where overlooked details, as you can see, can spiral into major disputes. Curious to see RocketPlan in action? Want to hear from businesses about how they've been transformed? Well, head over to RocketPlanTech.com. That's where you're going to find demos, customer stories, and as well as a lot of information about how RocketPlan is setting new industry standards. When it comes to restoration, efficiency isn't just about speed, it's about accuracy. It's about communication. It's about getting lives back to normal. Organizations thrive when they pair the right technologies with human-centered workflows. My name is Rob Boyd. You've been watching Beyond Red.